Do movies encourage drug use? New York Film Academy takes a look at how culture, society, and laws have shaped portrayals of drugs in movies from 1894 to 2015. Here we provide you with everything you ever wanted to know about drugs in film, but didn't know how to ask. Let's look at the history of drugs in film. Since the birth of film, drugs and cinema have been intertwined, with one of the very first films ever made being Thomas Edison's Chinese opium den. During this era, drug use was rampant and barely regulated by the government. An example of this was 1916's The Mystery of the Leaping Fish, in which a cocaine-using detective battles Chinese opium smugglers. MPAA President William Hayes passed the production code restricting drug use on screen. As a result, drugs were negatively represented in films such as Reefer Madness and Narcotic, made by the exploitation filmmaker Dwayne Esper. By the 1960s, there was a growth in drug use, which coincided with an increase in drugs on screen. An example of this was the iconic 1969 film Easy Rider. The Reagan administration's war on drugs led to a massive decline in cinematic portrayals of narcotics and drug use. 1983's Scarface initially glorified drugs and drug dealing, but then showed the drastic downfalls of the lifestyle. The modern drug cinema era ushered in a new way of portraying drug use, as exemplified in Requiem for a Dream, which realistically portrayed the highs and lows of drug addiction. Looking at the frequency of drugs appearing in film, the rate tends to mirror social and governmental trends. Between the 1960s and 70s, there was an increase in drugs on film. This diminished during the Just Say No era. However, since the 90s, there have been over 546 films showing drugs. Let's look at the popular drugs of choice. Cocaine has been a staple in film since the silent era and was widely used in the early 20th century, with coca leaves being imported from South America by the Coca-Cola Company, which used cocaine as an active ingredient in Coca-Cola until 1903. Usage peaked in the early 1980s, while popular use has remained on a steady decline. During the modern era, cocaine has appeared in 94 films, more than the previous 90 years combined. Heroin and opiates have appeared in film since cinema's birth. Their appearance in film declined during the early 1980s, when usage was at an all-time high. In the past 20 years, heroin use and its appearance on film has increased. Marijuana usage continually increased during the 1960s. Marijuana films dipped during the production code and Just Say No eras. LSD quickly transitioned from a psychiatric drug to a popular recreational one in the 60s, and film reflected this trend. The CIA even used LSD from the early 1950s, in which they administered LSD to unaware subjects. In the mid-2000s, meth films grew in popularity as usage declined. This was partly due to the potential to include a visually interesting, explosive meth lab scene within a film. After Breaking Bad premiered, there were multiple cases in which high school science teachers, inspired by the show, tried to manufacture meth. Drug use is on the rise in the U.S. 9.4% of Americans reported recent drug use in 2013, compared to 8.2% in 2002. Whether this trend is influenced by more films showing drugs, social causes, or other influential factors, the question still remains. Do movies encourage drug use? Get more information and statistics by downloading the full infographic. Visit the link on the screen. New York Film Academy in no way condones or promotes drug use.